Hello everybody and welcome, this is Comodin Cam. In today's video we are going to be ranking every Mirage design from worst to best. Now Mirage has had some interesting incarnations since his debut in 1984, and with his resurgence in the latest Transformers live action movie, that stirred up quite some controversy within the fandom. There's no better time than any to dive deep in all the Mirage designs. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the tier names. For the best Mirage design, we have...
There's no one here. I must have static in my rectifiers.
Now that's the smartest thing you've said all day.
Really? Hey, what's going on?
Stick it in your optic sensor, garbage can!
And now for the second highest tier, coming straight from Transformers Rise of the Beasts.
No. Relax. I'm Mirage, remember?
And now for the middle tier, where I kind of like it, but then I don't at the same time.
We knew you were anxious to get back to Cybertron, but at least you could have waited for us.
Sorry, Prime. The ship was full.
And now for the second lowest tier, where we have a quote from Dark of the Moon.
He's in a bad mood. He's not talking to anybody today.
What is this? The silent treatment?
And now for the worst Mirage design, where I pulled a quote from Transformers Robots in Disguise 2001.
Oh yeah, smart guy? Then tell me what this hand signal means here. Oh, that's a real tough one. That means caution, enemies nearby. Happy now? You know, he is right. It also means you look ridiculous.
First up, we have the original Mirage Generation 1 box art. It captures that original toy extremely well. Mirage was a Formula 1 car and he looks absolutely dashing. All the details on this box art here, it perfectly translates over to the toy. The toy is just classic. You know, you can't really decide whether you want it in its robot mode or vehicle mode. I can imagine just being a kid having this Formula 1 car and this being the reason why you're into racing. Like, just a classic design. You can't obviously drive these on the road. Of course, with his weapons as well, his signature rocket cannon on his shoulder there. When you think of the name Mirage, you always associate him with that cannon. This for sure goes up in the top tier. Now let's move on to the original cartoon design of Mirage. Obviously a more toned down version compared to his toy, because of course all the brand names, the logos have been switched over to a different part of the vehicle mode. Obviously it's toned down from the front of his piece, but you've still got some brand names on the side there. The 26 still appears, it's just not at the front of his chest. But I think it translates from the toy really well, and you can still recognize it, of course, as Mirage. Of course, the head sculpt is probably the biggest difference, but I think that's good because Mirage looks a bit more friendlier now in his G1 cartoon design. And this as well goes in the top tier. Alright, now let's move on to Generation 2, and Mirage definitely had a glow up. This was unproduced, I think, for a reason. I don't think it's all bad. I do like some of the signatures, like logos on there, like the crocodile, even though it is a little bit jarring. I don't think it's the worst colour mishap, but I don't think Mirage knows exactly what he's doing. Like I said, it was unproduced for a reason. So I think, sorry buddy, but the ship is full. Now we have Mirage from Beast Machines. Now the vehicle mode is pretty in line with Mirage, but the rest of him, not so much. There's also a red version of this as well. I kind of prefer the red version more, but talking about the original toy, yeah, this is nothing like the Mirage we remember, but design-wise, I kind of much prefer the vehicle mode. The robot mode is a little bit... the yellow doesn't work with that translucent blue there. The head sculpt as well. All the Beast Machines toys were kind of a bit of hit and miss for the most part, and I think this is a miss. I think this is going to go in... he's in a bad mood, because he looks like he's in a bad mood. Now we have Mirage from the original Robots in Disguise 2001, and okay, this one is definitely a miss. It's not even original design for Mirage. It was originally based on Double Clutch, a Generation 2 character. I like the vehicle mode because, well, it's similar to that original Formula 1 style of a car, but when it comes to the colours, there's kind of a lot missing here that I kind of wish was added on a bit more for detail. It works well for the cartoon because, you know, it's actually animated quite well, but overall it feels a little bit empty. It works vehicle-wise, but robot mode, I've never really kind of cared for this at all. I'm sorry buddy, but the ship is full. Now we do have other variations of this with the Machine Wars Mirage, which I think the paint works a little bit better on this, but overall I'm not really feeling it. I think the ship is full for this guy as well, along with the Generation 2 original Mirage GoBot, which is, I like the vehicle mode's colouring, like the zigzaggy kind of yellow we've got at the back there, but this guy obviously looks like a villain instead of the Autobot, so this as well I think goes in the ship is full. Now let's move on to Armada Mirage, who is a minicon, and this is a redeco of Swindle. I think the vehicle mode works better here. Now I like the colours, I think they work pretty well, but I lean more to the vehicle mode than the robot mode, because obviously this just being a redeco of Swindle, it's nothing really that unique. Okay, now let's move on to something weird. We have Mirage Bot from GoBots. This thing is the stuff of nightmares. Who would want to give this to their kid? I mean, heck, it still resembles G1 Mirage pretty well, but that face, oh my god, I can't imagine anyone wanting to have this as a toy. This immediately goes in ridiculous. Next up we've got Energon Mirage, the most drastic design on this tier list. Of course this used to be tied away from Armada, but in Energon he got revamped into a brand new mold. This is an assault speedboat, and yeah, you know what, I actually kind of like it. The head reminds me of Tarn a little bit. Of course personality wise he's very different as well from Armada. Of course he's a bit more flamboyant now, more loyal to Megatron than he was in Armada. Of course, this name was slapped on just so Hasbro could hold on to the license to use the name. I can actually imagine this being a pretty good toy to play with though, so, and I like the colours, they actually blend in really well with each other, so yeah, for something completely different, it's pretty cool. Next up we've got Alternators Mirage, which is a retool of Rodimus. Now, I can't say I'm really feeling this all too well. I like the vehicle mode, it's pretty cool. It's originally a Ford design, but the robot mode, yeah, it's the colours are nice. I like that dark blue style, but the chest and the shoulders, it just doesn't really work. I didn't really think it worked either for Rodimus. It's kind of a sore thumb for me, so I think the ship is full. There's not enough room for you, buddy. Now what there is room for is the original Generation 1 Mirage toy. This looks amazing. I remember as a kid always wanting to get my hands on this toy. It just works so well. It brings back that classic Mirage design, but of course make him a little bit more skinnier now, as he kind of should, because well, the vehicle mode is, well, a very thin car. You know, Formula 1 cars don't really have a lot of meat on them, but still nonetheless I think it works really well. I like how the feet are so wide and the legs are so wide, and then you get to the robot mode at the top and it's like a bit more thin, but then you've got those good shoulder pieces as well that really works. So yeah, a good revisit to that original classic car design. Maybe one day I'll finally get my hands on this toy. Of course it wouldn't be a traditional tier list if I didn't include the battle cards. God, I've not missed these guys. Yeah, we've got Mirage here looking pretty flat. It's actually very similar to his Alternators toy as well, so if I didn't like the original Alternators, I don't think the battle cards is going to change my mind. Sorry bro, but you look ridiculous. Now let's talk about IDW, but let's start off with an IDW design that shares the Alternators and battle cards, but I think improves upon it so well. So yes, this is the IDW Mirage. There's not a lot of IDW Mirage designs to really find, but we've got this one here, and I think it works because, well, it improves the chest a lot. I really like the legs as well, especially like the kind of angular bits on the kneecaps, on the shoulders and the arms. It's pretty much sharp all over. The head design is really cool, the wheels on the back. You know, I think this could pass as a Bayverse design, you know, because it kind of feels more like a Bayverse design. If you had to think of an original Generation 1 counterpart and translate it to Bayverse, I think this is actually a good contender. Now we have more than meets the eye Mirage just hanging out at a bar. He looks really cool. I like the head sculpt. The head sculpt is the best part about this design. It kind of gives me animated vibes, which we'll get into next. But yeah, overall to say this is a quick panel of him, and he doesn't really feature that much in the comics anyway. I think this is pretty cool. I hope we get to see something similar to this in the future. Now let's move on to some video games. We have Mirage from Forged to Fight, along with the Combiner Wars design as well, because they're the same, but they're just kind of different enough to put in their own tier. Of course, the Combiner Wars version is a lot more skinnier, and well, what I've said already about Combiner Wars toys, they don't look good. They all look identical. But when it comes to Forged to Fight, he looks a lot better. Of course, a bit more buffier and chunkier, and I think gameplay wise it works really well, you know, animation wise. But the original Combiner Wars toy is, oh, it's just so ugly, like they all are. So yeah, this is a no-brainer here. Moving on to the Earth Wars Mirage, which is very similar to the original Generations toy, which, yeah, this is your standard Mirage. There's nothing really new to add here. He's pretty basic. Okay, now let's move on to Transformers Animated Mirage. I absolutely love this design, the vehicle mode as well. So Cybertronian-like while still being similar to that original Formula 1 car. Derek did such a great job here. I like the head design as well, so unique looking while still being similar at the same time, and he's pointy. I love how pointy he is. I really wish we got a toy of this design, and I also hoped he was like a main character in the show, because I want to know what this guy's kind of personality is like. Now let's talk about a design here that you may not know about. There is an unused Mirage design for the line continuity. This was made in 2009, and this is very unique. This is how he could have potentially looked if he did appear in, like, say, Transformers Prime or something. There were other characters that were unused for the Aligned continuity. This would have been the definitive look for Mirage in, like, the Aligned Bible, stuff like that. And he looks really cool here. He looks a bit older as well, a bit more kind of wiser from that young appearance that we kind of got from Generation 1. Yeah, he looks a lot more older here, a bit more sophisticated. He's got the iconic cannon on his shoulder as well. Christensen really paid a lot of good attention to detail. You can even see writing on his wheels there and marks all over. The iconic 26 returns. Yeah, it's a shame that this ultimately never really got used for anything. Now let's talk about Mirage/Dino. His recent Studio Series toy calls him Dino, but at the time, during the film's production, he was known as Mirage, and this was all due to trademark issues. And for example, the reason why he was named Dino in the film was to pay tribute to Alfredo Dino Ferrari, because his vehicle mode is a Ferrari. But when the film came out, Dino couldn't get his own toy because Hasbro's greatest competitor, Mattel, had an exclusive license for the Ferrari toys. And Ferrari did not want their product placement sporting the name of a Hasbro Toys trademark, and that's why in the film he was never called Mirage. Basically, this dude is just a massive headache, but regardless of that, his design is amazing. I love his robot mode and vehicle mode. Definitely a standout design when it comes to the Autobots. He's so unique looking. It's a shame that he didn't really get more scenes in the movie, but at least in the Dark of the Moon video game you got to actually play as him, so there was a bit more Mirage to go around, and he was referred to as Mirage in the actual game. Of course, his scene breakout was the highway chase when he was taking on the Dreads, and he had a few good lines as well in the film, and I just want to pay a tribute to his voice actor, Francesco Quinn, who sadly died to a heart attack shortly a month after the film was released. Now I know the red is a drastic difference from the traditional blue that we're all used to, but this is about designs, and well, I like the Dino Mirage design from the movie. It took us about a decade, but we finally got a Studio Series toy of him. Sadly, next we've got Botshot's Mirage. This is shit. Now looking better, we have the Creo Mirage, which actually resembles his Generation 1 counterpart, and he looks pretty cool. He's pretty cute. Yeah, I like the head sculpt. I don't know why he's so angry though. Dude, why are you so mad? Probably because he's just had a glimpse into his future with his Build-A-Figure Mirage. Yeah, this dude, God, he's so blocky. The vehicle mode actually translates pretty well into the Creo form, but the robot mode, yeah, not so much. Yeah, I would be pretty mad too if I realized I was going to grow up into this. Now let's move back into video games, where we have Mirage in the Transformers Online Chinese game. And we've got variations of his design here. We've got 3 different modes the designer came up with. I can't really decide which one I prefer. I think they're all good, which is why I think they'll go in the same tier as each other. The one that they ultimately chose is good, but any one of them would have done well for me. I think they chose the middle one just because the vehicle parts look a bit more like the Formula 1 car. But yeah, very robust. God, I always love these MMO Chinese designs. They are so over the top and just so stylized. Really epic. Without a doubt, the coolest that the original Generation Mirage has ever looked. Now, there was another version of this design for the Chinese MMO game, but it was never used. This is a completely different take. Yeah, this looks less Transformer-like to me. I think it looks pretty cool though, and the colours blend so well. It's very sharp. It kind of gives me Transformers Prime vibes. I mean, it's very mecha anime, and I just don't think it works for Transformers. I mean, it's Mirage, remember? Next up, we've got the Netflix War for Cybertron Trilogy Mirage. Overall, a solid toy. It brings that Generation 1 toy back into modern times, and I think it looks pretty cool. We've got all the iconic features that we know of Mirage, and yeah, he looks good here. Now, his Decepticon version is I can't say I really care for it all that much. I mean, the colours are kind of nice, a good blend of each other, but the way how this was used in the show was pointless for just one scene, and it didn't even work. Like, the Decepticon saw right through him straight away when it started to glitch on him. I think this was just supposed to be like a tribute to the original G1 episode Trader, where Cliffjumper was unsure if Mirage was a Decepticon spy or not, which is nice, but we didn't really kind of need this. He's in a bad mood. Alright, next up we have Pete Davidson. So this design has come with a lot of controversy, and the fandom is divided. So when shooting began for the upcoming Transformers Rise of the Beast movie, we got images of a Porsche seen on the set, which got fans excited because we assumed that Jazz was going to make his return because, well, Jazz has always been associated with a Porsche car. Of course, Transformers car designs are subject to change, which is not really a big deal for the most part, but considering we've always had Jazz as a Porsche and this being set in the 80s, it was a no-brainer. You can't really knock the fans down for assuming that this was going to be Jazz. But then later on we found out actually Mirage is going to be the Porsche, and it kind of made fans go, wait, wasn't he a Formula 1 car? Well, like I said at the beginning of the video, you can't actually drive Formula 1 cars on the road, they're just meant to be for racing. So it wouldn't have really been a robot in disguise because everyone's going to be looking at this Formula 1 car. Now, Mirage's friendship with Anthony Ramos' character Noah is a main highlight of the film. Think of Sam Witwicky with Bumblebee, it's like that. But both of them are anti-authority kind of types, so Mirage is a bit more smug. So it wouldn't have worked so much for Jazz because Jazz has always been this loyal bot, this fun bot. And, you know, I really don't want Pete Davidson voicing Jazz. Now, couldn't they have just picked another car from Mirage? Sure, but you know what, I've kind of gone over it now because, well, it's still nice to have a Porsche in the movie. And especially with it being set in the 90s as well, it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a remix of Generation 1 and just something new, because, you know, we got him doing holograms stuff as well, which is usually Hound's thing, so nothing is traditional Generation 1 here. I mean, he's still blue, that's something, right? But the main thing that annoys me about this dude is that his design keeps on changing. So, when we first got the trailer, we got Mirage looking like this. Now, he looks pretty cool. Yeah, I actually really like it. There's a lot of good detail in there. There's a lot of good signature parts that make him really stand out from the rest of the Autobots. His face is pretty in tune to the original Mirage as well. Even though if the head sculpt is different, you can see traces of that original G1. And, well, he looks smug. So it kind of works. Pete Davidson actually kind of suits this robot because, well, he looks smug, just like Pete Davidson. Sorry, I'm just not a massive fan of the guy. Now, in the recent trailer, we've noticed that they've changed the colour of his head. It's now all blue compared to when we first saw him in the trailer where it was kind of this white silver. But that's a change I don't mind. I think it actually looks better being all blue. But when we got images of the Studio Series figure, he looks drastically different. Now, at first glance, he does, but the parts are still there. It's just been proportioned differently, and the colour helps with this look drastically different as well. And then you've got the blue eyebrows at the top that goes across the eyes, which looks like a visor, Jazz's visor. It's like, wow, it couldn't look more the same, yet different at the same time. This is all down to body parts being proportioned differently. Like we see in the film version, his body looks a bit more human-like, when the Studio Series version, it looks a bit more bulkier and a bit more wider. And this is way more obvious when you look at the controlled art, basically the toy packaging art, where even that looks different compared to its Studio Series toy. I think this is all down to just colouring differences, but at the same time, like, you can see body proportions have just been changed and altered ever so slightly. Like, this is the original Hasbro design, and for the film, they've tweaked it. And they've tweaked it enough where you can notice it, and you can't really decide whether or not it's a downgrade or not. I mean, the battle mask is definitely a big change here. But then also the head design, like I said, it's all blue now compared to the original white and silver. But then also the chest as well, which was originally all blue. But then they added more white parts, of course, to be more in line with the vehicle mode. But I like the yellow added on the film version. And the red is missing as well from this controlled art. So there's a lot more colour on the film version than the original controlled art and Studio Series toy. And actually the mainline toy that is not associated with Studio Series looks more like the film version. So you've kind of got two different versions of Mirage here. Do you prefer the original Hasbro concept render, or do you prefer the film version? The same thing has happened to RC as well, where her controlled art version looks very different compared to the movie version. But they're all just tweaks, but those tweaks can make a design look drastically different, whether you enhance a body part or shrink a body part, etc. But this guy has been a massive headache. He's made my brain fry just talking about this. I still think though it's the best of both worlds. I much prefer the controlled art version, but I wish there was more colour added to it. I think it just looks more Transformer-like compared to the film version, where his torso and body area looks a bit too small for me, if that even makes sense. I don't know, okay? Even though it doesn't make sense to kind of separate the controlled art version compared to the film version, I think they're different enough where they can still both go in the same tier, but still be considered separate. Alright, last but not least, we have... Angry Birds Mirage. Yep, there he is. He's a bird. I mean, hey, at least you can see the Formula 1 on it. You know what I mean? That's actually pretty cool. This isn't bad of a design. I'm going to try my best to not be so harsh to these Angry Birds designs, because I actually think some of these are really good. It's just a running joke. You guys get it. Do you remember the running joke of the Angry Birds? Alright, it's Mirage. Remember? Now let's move on to some fan art designs of Mirage, because I want to pay tribute to all the great art out there. Now let's start off with ArtistStan. With his edit of Rise of the Beast Mirage, he kept some parts from the original movie version and then just blended in that G1 style, and it looks really cool, like the colouring as well. I think if we got this in the movie, G1 fans of course would have been a lot more happier. While I'm still kind of satisfied with what we got, I can't deny that this would have been just as cool as well. It's a bit more of a solid design, and the chest area looks really cool as well. While I am still happy overall kind of with what we got in the end, I can't deny that ArtistStan did such a great job on this edit there. I think this fan art and the film version go side by side with each other. Either one would have been good with me. Next up, we've got artwork from the very talented Misopius. We have their version of Mirage in their Transformers series, and just wow. They actually blend in elements from the recent Rise of the Beast Mirage very well, and I really like that colour of blue. It blends in so well with the white. And I love the face as well, paying homage to the original Generation 1 toy design. I really like how they've paid tribute to that. Every Transformers design that this artist does really stands out. Come on Hasbro, give us a comic series or a TV series based on this. Next up, we've got artwork from one of my favourite DeviantArt artists called Du Hong. This is his version of Transformers Prime Mirage, and I remember looking at this as a kid just hoping that this design would appear in the show. Just wow, just stellar. I love the slimness of it and the sharpness, like that Transformers Prime style. That head design as well is very iconic. Just wow. I would have loved to have gotten a toy or to seen this guy in the show. Like all of his artwork in the Transformers Prime in styled art, it's always stellar. All links to these talented artists will be found in the description box below. So there you have it guys, every Mirage design ranked from worst to best. And throughout the years, he's been fairly consistent since his debut in Generation 1. Of course the drastic one being the Energon one. But other than that, wherever he may show up next, you can always expect him to be blue.
I'm afraid I just blew myself.
I know it's been such a long time since I did a Transformers character design. I can't believe it's been 6 months. That's because all my energy went into one of my biggest videos yet, which is now available on YouTube. It's ranking every Generation 1 episode. It's a whopping 6 hours and 34 minutes long, but trust me, it's some of my best work and I think you'll really enjoy it. Jam-packed of jokes, in-depth analysis on all the episodes, and loads of cameo appearances from other great Transformers YouTubers. It's essentially the ultimate collab. And I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting that video. After spending months making it, seeing all the positive feedback and reception has truly meant the world to me. Expect more Transformers character designs ranked in the future, so to keep updated on that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. Until the next video guys, this has been Comodin Cam, and goodbye.